Hello, my friend, and welcome back to Learn English Unleashed. I'm John. I'm really happy you're here today. Before we begin, I want you to think about something. Have you ever learned a sentence like this? How do you do? Or maybe, it is a pleasure to meet you. You remembered it. You practiced it. You said it perfectly, but then you watched an American video or listened to a podcast, and nobody talked like that. Instead, you heard things like, "What's up? I'm good. No worries. I'm just heading out. Sounds good." And suddenly, it felt like you were learning two different English languages, one from the textbook and one from real life. If that has ever happened to you, this episode is for you. And here's the good news. You do not need to throw away everything you've learned. You do not need to sound exactly like a movie star. You do not need to live in America. Even if you're busy, even if you feel nervous, even if nobody around you speaks English, you can still start speaking more naturally. Not by learning hundreds of difficult expressions, but by noticing the simple phrases Americans use every single day. And today, we're going to discover them together. Slowly, clearly, step by step. By the end of this episode, you'll start hearing English differently. And maybe you'll even surprise yourself the next time you speak. But first, let me ask you one small question. Why do some learners know thousands of English words, yet still sound unsure during a simple conversation? We'll answer that in just a moment, because the answer may surprise you. Welcome, once again. Welcome back, my friend. If this is your first time here, I'm really glad you joined us. On this channel, we don't try to memorize long word lists. We don't chase perfect grammar every minute. Instead, we build real speaking confidence, one small step at a time. I'll speak slowly. I'll use easy words. And sometimes, I'll ask you to speak with me. Don't worry about mistakes. Today's goal isn't perfection. Today's goal is progress. Ready? Let's begin. A few months ago, I met an English learner named Alex. Alex studied English almost every evening. He knew many grammar rules. His notebook was full of vocabulary. His test scores were excellent. But one day, he visited an American coffee shop. The worker smiled and asked, "How's it going?" Alex froze. He knew the words. He knew the grammar. But his brain started searching for the perfect answer. After a few seconds, he quietly said, "I'm fine, thank you." The worker smiled politely. But the conversation ended there. Later, Alex told me something interesting. "John, I understood English, but I didn't understand real conversations." Maybe you felt that too. And if you have, you're definitely not alone. So here's today's big question. What do Americans actually say every day? Not in English exams. Not in old textbooks. Not in difficult business meetings. I'm talking about normal life. Talking to friends, buying lunch, walking into work, answering the phone, leaving the house, meeting neighbors, sending messages. These small moments happen every day, and they use simple English, very simple English. In fact, many of the most common American phrases are only 2 or 3 words long. Interesting, isn't it? We'll start learning them very soon. But before we do, there's one mistake almost every learner makes. And fixing this one mistake can change everything. Why most learners stay stuck. Imagine this. Every week, you memorize 20 new phrases. After 1 month, you've learned almost 80. That sounds amazing, right? But then someone asks, "What have you been up to?" And your mind goes blank. Why? Because memorizing isn't the same as using. Your brain stores information, but speaking needs fast recall. That's the missing piece. Many learners collect English. Very few actually use it. Think about riding a bicycle. You can read 10 books about cycling. You can watch 50 videos. But until you get on the bike, your balance never improves. English works the same way. Real conversations move quickly. People don't stop and wait while you search your memory. They simply keep talking. That's why today's episode is different. I'm not going to give you a giant vocabulary list. Instead, I'll show you how to notice the short, natural phrases Americans repeat every day. Because those are the phrases your brain begins to recognize automatically. And once your brain recognizes them, speaking becomes much easier. Not overnight, but little by little. Here's a tiny challenge before we continue. Think about your last conversation in your own language. Did you use long, perfect sentences? Probably not. You probably used short phrases. Quick answers, simple reactions. That's exactly how Americans speak too. And in the next practice, you'll discover the first habit that helps you notice those real-life phrases naturally. Let's get started. Practice 1. Now, here's something interesting. Most learners ask, "John, where can I find real American English?" They think the answer is difficult. But it isn't. The truth is, real English is everywhere. The problem isn't finding it. The problem is noticing it. Let me explain. Imagine you watch a short video online. A friend opens the door and says, "I'm on my way." A few seconds later, someone replies, "Hang on." Then another person laughs and says, "No big deal." These are not difficult sentences. They're short, natural, and they appear again and again. That repetition is important. Your brain starts thinking, "I've heard this before." And that is exactly how real learning begins. Here's a small story. One learner decided to stop studying for one evening. Instead, she listened to a 15-minute American podcast while making dinner. She wasn't trying to understand every word. She wasn't writing notes. She wasn't pressing pause every few seconds. She simply listened. The next day, she heard one familiar phrase again, then another. By the end of the week, those same phrases didn't sound new anymore. They sounded normal. That's the goal. Not perfect understanding, but growing familiarity. Here's today's first mini challenge. The next time you watch an English video, don't try to catch every sentence. Instead, listen for one short phrase. Just one. When you hear it again, smile. Your brain has started building a pattern. Now let's practice together. Repeat after me. I'm on my way. Good. Again. I'm on my way. Excellent. Now say, hang on. One more time. Hang on. Great job. Now say, no big deal. Perfect. Don't worry if your pronunciation isn't perfect. Today, we're training your ears first. Speaking becomes easier after listening becomes familiar. And here's something many learners never realize. Americans don't always choose the biggest words. They usually choose the fastest words. Short, simple, natural. Remember that. Because our next practice will show you how to borrow those natural sentences and make them part of your own English. But before we move on, ask yourself one question. Are you listening to understand every word? Or are you listening to recognize real patterns? That small change can completely change the way you learn. Practice 2. Now let me ask you something. Have you ever learned a new English word, but when you tried to use it, it didn't feel natural? That's because words rarely travel alone. They like company. Native speakers remember groups of words, not single words. For example, instead of learning one new verb today, learn the whole sentence that comes with it. Your brain remembers complete patterns much faster. Let's imagine this. You arrive a few minutes late. Your friend smiles and says, "There you are." Simple, friendly, very common. Or maybe someone checks the time and says, "That works for me." Again. Short, easy, natural. Now listen carefully. Don't memorize these because I told you to. Notice how they fit into real life. Picture the moment. Picture the people. Picture the conversation. When you connect English with a situation, your memory becomes much stronger. Here's another quick story. One learner put a single sticky note on the side of his computer screen. Not 50 expressions, only one, every 3 days. He changed it. Whenever he sat down to work or checked his emails, he quietly read the sentence once. No pressure, no long study session, just one natural sentence. Months later, he noticed something surprising. Those expressions started appearing in his conversations without effort. Not because he forced them, but because he had seen them hundreds of times. Now it's your turn. Repeat after me. There you are. Excellent. Again. There you are. Now say, that works for me. One more time. That works for me. Very nice. Here's your 2-minute practice for today. Choose one natural sentence. Say it 5 times. Then imagine 3 different situations where you could actually use it. Don't rush. Picture the moment. Your imagination helps your memory. And before we continue, think about this. If you collect one useful sentence every day, how many natural sentences will you know after 1 year? Quite a lot. And that's exactly how fluent speakers grow. Not one giant step, but many small ones. In our next practice, we're going to make English leave the page and enter your daily life. You'll discover a simple habit that many confident speakers use without even realizing it. Practice 3. Now let me ask you something. When do you usually think in your own language? While getting ready? While walking outside? While waiting for your food? Probably all day long. Your mind is always talking. The question is, what language is it using? Most English learners only use English during study time. Then they switch back to their first language for the rest of the day. That means English gets only a few minutes of practice. But here's a simple secret. Invite English into your ordinary moments. Not for an hour, just for a few minutes. Let me tell you about Maya. Every morning she rushed through her routine. She made breakfast, packed her bag, checked the weather, answered a few messages. One day, she decided to change one small habit. Instead of staying silent, she quietly described what she was doing. She said, "I'm looking for my keys. I need to charge my phone. I'll leave in 5 minutes." Nothing complicated, nothing perfect, just real life. At first, it felt unusual. After a few days, it started feeling natural. A few weeks later, she noticed something exciting. When someone asked her a simple question in English, she answered faster. Not because she had studied more grammar, but because her brain had already practiced everyday thoughts. That's the power of daily narration. Now let's try it together. Imagine you're getting ready to leave home. Repeat after me. I'm almost ready. Very good. Again. I'm almost ready. Now say, I'll be back soon. Excellent. One more time. I'll be back soon. Great job. Now here's your 30-second challenge. The next time you're doing something simple, maybe folding clothes, waiting for the elevator, or watering a plant, describe your actions in English, only for 30 seconds. That's all. If you forget a word, don't stop. Use easier words. Keep moving. Remember, fluent speakers don't know every word. They know how to keep the conversation alive. And here's something important. Don't ask, "Is this perfect English?" Ask, "Can someone understand me?" That's a much better question, because communication comes before perfection. Now, what happens when you know a phrase, but your brain can't find it at the right moment? Let's fix that next. Practice 4. Have you ever experienced this? You hear a phrase today. It makes perfect sense. Tomorrow, you remember it. But 3 days later, it's gone. Where did it go? Most learners think, my memory is bad. But that's usually not true. The real problem is this. You recognize the phrase, you never retrieved it. There's a big difference. Recognition happens when someone gives you the answer. Retrieval happens when your brain finds the answer by itself. And retrieval is what makes speaking easier. Imagine this. You meet a friend after work. Before checking any notes, ask yourself, how would I greet them in English? Wait a few seconds. Let your brain search. Maybe you remember, "Good to see you," or "How've you been?" Even if it takes a little time, that search is powerful. Your brain is building a stronger pathway. Here's a short story. Leo started playing a small game every evening. He picked one everyday situation, getting into a taxi, walking into a store, calling a family member. Before imagining the conversation, he closed his notebook. He tried to remember 3 natural sentences. Some days he remembered only one. Other days he remembered all three, week after week. His recall became faster, not because he learned more, because he practiced remembering. Now it's your turn. Repeat after me. Good to see you. Excellent. Again. Good to see you. Now say, how have you been? Very nice. One more time. How have you been? Perfect. Now here's today's 2-minute memory game. Close your eyes. Imagine you're meeting a friend you haven't seen for a long time. Without looking at any notes, say 3 English sentences. Don't worry if they're simple. The goal isn't to impress anyone. The goal is to make your brain work. Every time you search, your speaking becomes stronger. Every time you remember, your confidence grows. And here's something exciting. We've learned how to notice English. We've learned how to borrow natural sentences. We've learned how to narrate our day. We've learned how to strengthen our memory. But there's still one final practice, and it's the one that connects everything together. It's the habit that helps many learners finally stop saying, I understand English, but I can't speak. In the next section, we'll build a simple 2-minute daily speaking routine that can fit into almost any schedule. And that small routine may become the habit that changes your English the most. Practice 5. Build your 2-minute speaking habit. We've reached the final practice. And in many ways, this is the most important one. Because learning English isn't about having one amazing study day. It's about having many small successful days. Let me ask you something. If I asked you to study English for 3 hours every day, would that feel possible? Maybe for one day, maybe for one weekend, but probably not for a whole year. Now imagine something different. Just 2 minutes. Almost everyone can find 2 minutes. That's where real progress begins. Here's a simple routine you can use. First, spend 30 seconds listening and repeating. Play one short conversation and copy the rhythm. Second, spend 1 minute narrating a small story. Think about something that happened today. Maybe you missed a bus or received a funny message. Speak it out loud. Third, spend 30 seconds planning tomorrow. Say 3 simple sentences about your next day. That's it. 2 minutes. Not perfect, just consistent. Now let me tell you about Ethan. Ethan always believed he needed long study sessions. Whenever he couldn't study for an hour, he skipped English completely. One day he changed his plan. Instead of waiting for the perfect time, he started using 2 minutes. Sometimes before breakfast, sometimes while waiting for his computer to start, sometimes before going to bed. Those 2 minutes didn't look impressive, but they happened almost every day. After a few months, something changed. He wasn't translating every sentence anymore. He wasn't afraid of simple conversations anymore. His English wasn't perfect, but it was alive. It was active. And that's a huge difference. Now let's practice together one last time. Repeat after me. I'll keep going. Very good. Again. I'll keep going. Now say, one step at a time. Excellent. One more time. One step at a time. Perfect. Now here's today's final challenge. For the next 7 days, Don't try to become fluent. Don't try to learn 100 new phrases. Just protect your 2-minute habit. Some days will feel easy, some days won't. Do it anyway, because confidence grows through consistency, not through perfection. Let's go back to the beginning of today's episode. Remember Alex? The learner who froze when someone asked, "How's it going?" Months later, something interesting happened. He wasn't studying harder. He was studying smarter. He listened for real conversations. He borrowed natural sentences. He narrated his daily routine. He practiced remembering. And he protected his 2-minute habit. Then, one afternoon, he walked into another coffee shop. The cashier smiled and said, "Hey, how's it going?" This time, Alex smiled back. "Pretty good. How about you?" The conversation lasted only a few seconds, but for Alex, it felt like a huge victory. Not because his English was perfect, because it was real. That small moment reminded him of something important. Fluency isn't one big jump. It's thousands of small wins. Let's remember today's journey. Before we finish, let's quickly remember what we learned. First, catch real English in action. Listen for short, everyday phrases. Second, borrow complete sentences, not lonely words. Third, narrate your day. Turn ordinary moments into speaking practice. Fourth, pull words back from your memory. Let your brain do the work. And finally, protect your 2-minute speaking habit. Small actions, every day. Those small actions become big results. My friend, if you've ever thought, "My English isn't good enough," I want you to remember one thing. Every confident English speaker was once a beginner. Every fluent conversation started with one simple sentence. Every improvement started with one small decision. Maybe today's decision is yours. Not to become perfect, but to become consistent. Keep listening. Keep speaking. Keep making mistakes. Keep learning. Because every sentence you speak makes the next sentence a little easier. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. I truly hope this episode helped you feel a little more confident. If it did, come back for the next episode. We'll continue building your English together. Slowly, naturally. One conversation at a time. Until then, take care of yourself. Keep practicing. And never stop unleashing your English. I'll see you next time. Goodbye, my friend.